"What did you say?" Zuri asked the manager, trying not to scream. Zoe tried not to let her confusion be too obvious, but she was failing. The man who had invited Zuri to dinner had been gone for 14 minutes when the manager placed the bill beside her. At first, she thought it belonged to another table. The restaurant occupied the 47th floor of one of Seoul's most exclusive hotels. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around the dining room, turning the city below into a field of lights. The waiters moved almost silently. The piano in the corner played softly, and nobody seemed to speak above a murmur. It was exactly the kind of place Zuri rarely visited unless she was working. She looked down at the receipt, then looked again. 16 million won, nearly $12,000. Zuri slowly lifted her eyes. There's been a mistake. The manager's polite expression tightened. "I'm afraid the amount is correct, Miss Cole." She glanced at the empty chair across from her. His jacket was gone. His phone was gone. The dessert he had ordered remained untouched. He went to make a call. The manager hesitated. "Yes, ma'am, so we can wait until he comes back." Another pause. Then the manager said, "The gentleman left the restaurant approximately 12 minutes ago." Zuri stared at him. "Left? Through the private elevator?" "No." She grabbed her phone. The first call rang once before disconnecting. She tried again. Straight to voicemail. Zuri opened their messages and typed 3 words. "Where are you?" The message failed, blocked. Her stomach sank. "What exactly am I being charged for?" The manager turned the receipt toward her. "The 2 tasting menus, the wine, the upstairs private dining suite, the food and beverages ordered for the guests in that room, and the reservation deposit." Zuri looked up sharply. "Private dining suite?" "Yes. There were 2 of us." "The additional room was attached to your reservation earlier this evening. By who?" "The gentleman accompanying you." Her fingers went cold. "He told you I was paying for all of this? He informed the staff that you were hosting the evening?" "I wasn't hosting anything." The manager lowered his voice. "I understand, but the reservation was made through your agency concierge account." "Of course it was." He had claimed the restaurant was impossible to book. Zuri had used the entertainment agency where she worked to secure a table, and apparently someone had turned that favor into a $12,000 trap. "I don't have 16 million won available tonight." A few nearby guests had started looking over. 2 security employees moved discreetly from the entrance. Zuri saw them. The humiliation hit harder than the money. "Can you tell them to stop?" "I'm afraid we need to resolve the payment." "Put it on mine." The voice came from the table beside hers. Zuri turned. A man sat there alone. She remembered another older man dining with him earlier, but she had barely looked at either of them. She looked now. He appeared to be in his mid-30s, tall even while seated, broad shoulders beneath a charcoal suit. His black hair was neatly styled, his face sharply handsome, but there was something intimidating about how little emotion he showed. The manager straightened immediately. "Sir, add her table to my account." Zuri stared at the stranger. "No." His eyes shifted to her. "I beg your pardon?" "I said no." The manager suddenly looked like he wanted to disappear. Zuri stood. "I appreciate whatever you think you're doing, but I don't know you. I'm not letting some stranger pay $12,000 for me." The man studied her. "Good." Her eyebrows rose. "Good? Because I'm not doing it for you." That shut her up. His gaze moved toward the corridor her date had disappeared through. "The man who brought you here spent the last 10 minutes of dinner checking whether I was watching him." Zuri's anger faltered. "What? He saw me." The stranger leaned back. "And approximately 3 minutes later, he left you with a $12,000 bill." Zuri looked at the empty chair again. "You know him. I know enough." The manager remained beside them. The stranger looked at him. "Preserve the original receipt, every amendment made to the reservation, and every security recording covering this floor and the private suites." "Yes, sir," he frowned. "Why do you want the security footage?" The stranger finally looked directly at her. "Because before you leave, Miss Cole, you're going to tell me exactly what the man who abandoned you wanted from Chasua tonight." Zuri froze. How did he know who she worked for? How did he know the dinner had anything to do with Sua? And why had the man who brought her here looked terrified the moment he saw this stranger? But before we find out how Zuri ended up sitting alone with a $12,000 bill, and why the stranger beside her seemed to know more about her date than she did, tell me where you're watching from today. Drop your city or country in the comments, and if you enjoy stories filled with betrayal, secrets, and unexpected romance, hit the like button and subscribe. Now, let's go back 6 weeks. Before Zuri had any idea what was being planned around her. 6 weeks earlier, Zuri's biggest problem had nothing to do with disappearing men, expensive wine, or mysterious strangers. She was trying to convince one of Korea's most famous actresses that her shoulders looked perfectly normal. "I hate this dress." Zuri continued answering emails on her phone. "You hated the first dress. This is different. You hated the second. The second hated me first." Zuri finally looked up. Cha Soo-ah stood in front of the dressing room mirror wearing a cream gown that 2 stylists had spent almost an hour adjusting. At 28, Soo-ah was one of Korea's biggest actresses. 3 hit dramas, 2 major film awards, luxury endorsements across Asia, and enough online followers to cause a product to sell out simply by carrying it through an airport. She was also glaring at her reflection like the dress had personally betrayed her. "My shoulders look wide." "You have shoulders. Thank you, Zuri. You pay me to manage your career. Emotional lying costs extra." Soo-ah turned. "You used to be nicer. You used to have 3 lines in daytime dramas." That finally made her laugh. 7 years earlier, nobody had cared what Chae Soo-ah wore. Back then, Zuri had been a 22-year-old junior foreign coordinator trying to prove herself at a Seoul entertainment agency. Soo-ah had been an unknown actress whose own managers routinely forgot her schedules. They had been assigned to each other because neither was important enough for anyone senior to care. When transportation failed, Zuri found taxis. When Soo-ah's first director cut her only speaking scene, Zuri sat with her at a convenience store until 2 in the morning while Soo-ah cried into instant noodles. When Soo-ah finally landed her first lead role, she demanded that Zuri remain on her team. Years later, when other agencies offered famous managers and entire teams to lure Soo-ah away, her answer remained the same. "Zuri stays." But fame had changed their relationship anyway. Not enough to destroy it. Just enough to make certain things easier to ignore. Soo-ah became used to Zuri answering at midnight. Used to her moving personal plans when shoots changed. Used to dumping her anger on Zuri because she knew Zuri would still be there tomorrow. Zuri understood. So everyone began assuming she always would. Soo-ah picked up her phone. Her expression suddenly changed. "What?" Zuri knew that tone. Soo-ah turned the screen toward her. An entertainment article showed a photograph of a famous director leaving a private restaurant. The headline mentioned secret negotiations for Soo-ah's next international drama. Zuri frowned. That meeting wasn't public, no. Only 5 people had known where Soo-ah was meeting the director. Soo-ah, Zuri, the agency CEO, Director Choi, head of artist management, and Soo-ah's attorney. Soo-ah looked at her. "You were the only person on my immediate team who knew the location." Zuri went still. Soo-ah's face changed almost immediately. "That's not what I meant." Sounded pretty close. "Zuri, you have 10 minutes until the car leaves. I'm sorry." Zuri looked at her. Soo-ah genuinely meant it. "I know." Soo-ah touched her wrist. "I'm tired of strangers knowing where I am before I decide they should. So am I." For a moment, they looked less like celebrity and manager, and more like the 2 exhausted young women who had once shared convenience store dinners because neither could afford anything better. Then, Soo-ah's stylist arrived with earrings. The moment passed. Later that afternoon, Zuri accompanied Soo-ah to a script reading. She was walking past one of the smaller rehearsal rooms when a man's voice snapped from inside. "Again!" A young actress stood beneath the fluorescent lights clutching several script pages. Zuri recognized her. Kim Na-ri, 22. A few commercials, 2 tiny drama roles, and enough talent to keep getting auditions without enough fame to make anyone treat her carefully. Na-ri began the scene again. She stumbled over one sentence. "Stop." The producer seated behind the table threw his pen down. Na-ri bowed immediately. "I'm sorry." 4 times. "I'll get it right." His assistants stared at their laptops. Na-ri swallowed. "I can do it again." The producer pages and dropped them onto the floor. "Then stop wasting everyone's time." Zuri stopped walking. Nobody else did anything. That was how the industry worked. Powerful people could call humiliation professionalism, and everyone beneath them learned to bow. Na-ri crouched to gather her pages after the producer left. Zuri entered and picked up the last 2. Na-ri looked up. "Thank you. You don't need to apologize." "I didn't. You were about to." Na-ri gave a nervous laugh. "If I lose this role, I go back to commercials where I'm woman eating noodles number 2? That sounds prestigious." A real smile appeared. Zuri handed over the pages. Nari blinked. You said you could do it. You said you could do it. Her acting was terrible. Nari laughed midway through. Sorry, that one you can apologize for. They tried again. Nari delivered every line perfectly. When Zuri stepped back into the hallway, the producer was waiting. He was handsome, early 30s, perfectly dressed, and much more charming when he wasn't throwing scripts at frightened actresses. You always retrain actors after I make them cry? Only before lunch. His mouth curved. You're Zuri Cole. I'm aware. Just Sua's manager. There it was. Zuri immediately lost interest. Then he added, and apparently the only person in this building willing to tell me I'm being an asshole. That part is free. He laughed. I'm Lee Jae-hyuk. I know. Most people in entertainment did. Jae-hyuk was an ambitious independent producer whose next film, Glass House, was supposed to establish him as a serious name. The problem was that everyone had heard about Glass House for almost a year, and nobody seemed willing to finance it. Jae-hyuk gestured toward the rehearsal room. She wasn't prepared. You can reject someone without enjoying embarrassing them. You think I enjoyed it? You stayed to watch her pick up the pages. That silenced him. Zuri started walking. Coffee, she glanced back. With you. That was generally what I meant. No, dinner? No, should I continue? Probably not. He grinned. He continued anyway. 2 days later, they happened to meet in the agency lobby. A week after that, they had coffee, then another. By the third week, Jae-hyuk knew that Zuri drank iced Americanos even when Seoul was freezing. He knew she hated anyone touching her phone. He knew she rarely ate during long shooting days, so he occasionally appeared outside studios with food. And most importantly, he didn't constantly ask for access to Sua. That mattered. Men had dated Zuri before because they thought proximity to her meant proximity to celebrities. Could she get them premiere invitations? Could she introduce them to actors? Could she send their cousin's script to Sua? Jae-hyuk seemed different. He asked about Zuri. At least most of the time. Some questions slipped naturally into conversation. Do actors actually read every script agencies send them? Depends on the actor. Sua, when she has time. What if you think something is terrible? I tell her. So managers have that much influence, less than people think. Another night he asked, you probably know her schedule better than she does. Everyone knows Sua's schedule better than she does. A week later, what sort of films is she looking for now? Zuri narrowed her eyes. You're starting to sound like you're interviewing me. Jae-hyuk smiled. Maybe I'm fascinated by the terrifying woman who controls Korea's biggest actress. I don't control her. Could have fooled me. Then he changed the subject. Every time. He always stopped one question before becoming suspicious. Meanwhile, the leaks around Sua became worse. Details of an endorsement negotiation appeared online before the brand had announced anything. Then confidential information about a streaming drama reached a rival production company. The agency called an emergency meeting. Director Choi sat beside the CEO. In his late 40s, Choi had spent 2 decades working in artist management. He had always treated Zuri well, particularly once Sua became important enough that keeping her manager happy became good business. The leaks are coming from somewhere inside the artist management division, the CEO said. Sua shifted beside Zuri. Director Choi looked at Zuri. Don't worry, you've been with Sua too long for anyone serious to suspect you. Zuri smiled faintly. Thank you. She would remember that sentence later. That evening, Jae-hyuk told her he finally had good news. They walked beside the Han River with coffee. My investors are close, for Glass House. They want one recognizable lead attached. You'll find someone. You sound confident. I manage actors. Encouraging lies are part of the job. He laughed. I want to celebrate next week. What happened to clothes? I'm optimistic. Dangerous. I know a restaurant. When he sent her the name, Zuri almost refused. You realize normal people cannot book this place. You aren't normal people. I manage one actress. I am not the president. You have the agency concierge. Zuri sent him a suspicious emoji. He replied, Use your terrifying powers against her better judgment, she did. The dinner began beautifully. Jae-hyuk wore a dark suit. Sua had personally chosen Zuri's black dress after insulting half her wardrobe. For almost an hour they barely discussed work. Then Jae-hyuk ordered a bottle of wine. Zuri checked the price. What? That bottle cost more than my first car. It was probably a terrible car. You never saw it, I can tell. She closed the menu. Order something normal. Tonight is on me. That sentence has ruined many lives. Trust me. The wine arrived. Then Jae-hyuk began checking his phone. Once. Again. Zuri finally lowered her fork. Are you expecting someone? No. You've looked at the entrance more than you've looked at me for 10 minutes. Work. Your investors. He hesitated, then nodded. They're actually here. Zuri looked around. Upstairs. The warmth disappeared from the evening. You invited investors? It wasn't supposed to overlap. Then why are they upstairs? Jae-hyuk exhaled. Zuri, I need one favor. Her stomach tightened. What? Where's Sua tonight? She stared at him. At home. Can you call her? No. You haven't even heard. Jae-hyuk, call her? Jae-hyuk, just listen. He leaned forward. They love Glass House, but they won't release the full financing unless they believe we can land a major lead. Sua rejected your film. The old draft. The revised draft too. His expression flickered. Zuri caught it. You already knew. Of course I knew. Then why do your investors think she might join? I told them discussions aren't finished. They are finished. She doesn't have to sign anything tonight. She just comes upstairs, says hello, has one drink. No, they see her and understand the possibility is real. But it isn't real. It could become real. Zuri sat back. Suddenly she remembered every question. What scripts does she read? Who chooses her projects? How much influence do managers have? Did you start dating me because of Sua? Jae-hyuk's answer came too quickly. No. Zuri waited. He looked away. Her chest tightened. Oh my God. Zuri, listen to me. The beginning. He frowned. What? You said no too quickly, so tell me the truth. At the beginning, did you approach me because of her? Jae-hyuk rubbed a hand over his face. I knew who you were. That isn't an answer. Yes. The word landed heavily. I thought getting to know you might help me get another opportunity with Sua. Zuri stared at him. But then I got to know you. She laughed bitterly. You've been interviewing me for 6 weeks. That's not what happened. You asked about her scripts, her schedule, how much influence I have. Because my work overlaps with yours. And somehow every overlap led back to her. He reached for her hand. She pulled away. I do care about you. Then why are there investors upstairs waiting for my client? His phone buzzed. He ignored it. Zuri, one phone call from you could change my entire life. Her eyes hardened. Apparently 6 weeks with me couldn't. So what would you do here? If someone admitted they originally approached you because of what you could give them, but insisted their feelings became real later, could you ever trust them again? Would you walk out immediately or stay long enough to hear the rest? Tell me in the comments, because Zuri was about to discover that Sua wasn't the only secret hidden inside this dinner. He looked at the message. Then his gaze moved past Zuri. All the color disappeared from his face. Zuri turned slightly. 2 men sat several tables away. An older man was speaking. The younger man listened quietly. Charcoal suit, dark hair, broad shoulders. He lifted his eyes. For one brief moment, he and Jae-hyuk looked directly at each other. Nothing changed on the stranger's face. Jae-hyuk looked terrified. Who is that? Zuri asked. No one. That is not a no one reaction. His phone buzzed again. He stood. I need 5 minutes. Sit down. I'll be right back. Jae-hyuk. He bent closer. Please don't leave. Then he walked away. Zuri remained there, furious, trying to decide whether she wanted an explanation or simply the satisfaction of throwing the expensive wine into his face. 14 minutes later, the manager placed 16 million won beside her. Now the story had caught up to the night she wished she could erase. The stranger ordered the bill transferred. Zuri refused. He ignored her refusal long enough to make sure the restaurant preserved the records. Then she heard the manager say something that changed everything. Chairman Han, the account has been updated. Zuri slowly looked toward him. Chairman Han, Han Do-yoon, chairman of Mirai Media Group, film production, distribution, streaming, cinema chains. Enough influence that an investment from Mirai could decide whether a movie existed at all. Zuri looked toward the corridor Jae-hyuk had escaped through. You're Han Do-yoon. You sound disappointed. You could have introduced yourself. You were busy shouting at me. I was not shouting. You were considering it. She almost argued, then remembered the situation. You said you know Jae-hyuk. He has asked Mirai to finance Glass House twice. You rejected him. Why? The film is too expensive for the cast he has. He needs a major lead. Sua. Do-yoon picked up Jae-hyuk's abandoned business card. 3 months ago, he claimed discussions with her agency were promising. Her agency told us she had already rejected the film. Zuri's anger shifted into something colder. And tonight his investors were upstairs expecting her. Yes, why were you here? Do-yoon's face became serious. The leaks, Zuri stilled. Sua's agency contacted Murray because some leaked information involved our financing negotiations. The older man who had been dining with him suddenly made sense. My agency CEO. Yes. You were meeting about the investigation. Do-yoon nodded, and then you saw me. I saw Jae-hyuk dining with the manager of the actress he has spent months trying to secure. So you thought I was helping him? I didn't know what to think. Zuri heard the wording. You still don't. I met you 20 minutes ago. Fair. He slid the receipt toward himself. Tell me exactly what he asked you to do. By the following afternoon, Zuri's life had become much less simple. Director Choi summoned her to a private meeting. The agency CEO was already inside. So was a digital security consultant. Sua had not been invited. That frightened Zuri more than anything. The consultant placed several printed logs in front of her. These are confidential files connected to the leaks. Zuri recognized them. Sua's streaming negotiations, the endorsement agreement, the director's private meeting. All three were accessed using your credentials. No, the records are very clear. I didn't download them. One access occurred at 1:17 in the morning from an external device. I was asleep. Director Choi leaned forward. Has anyone else used your laptop? No? Then Zuri remembered Jae-hyuk sitting at her kitchen table while she showered. Her laptop open. Another night he had picked up her phone to order food because the delivery app was already logged in. Once he had joked that the agency's security screen looked like it had been designed 20 years ago. I don't know. The CEO frowned. You don't know? I was seeing someone. Director Choi's expression sharpened. Who? Zuri hated saying it. Lee Jae-hyuk. The room changed. That evening she sat inside a private conference room at Mirai Media. Do-yoon stood beside a large window while she explained everything she could remember. He used your laptop? Once that I know of. Your phone? He held it. Did he know your password? Possibly. That still wouldn't give him administrative access to Sua's agency records. So someone internal would need to help him. Do-yoon looked at her. Possibly. You really enjoy that word. I enjoy evidence. You also enjoy making people feel like suspects. At the moment, you are one. Zuri's expression hardened. Then maybe find someone else to interrogate. The conference room door opened before he could respond. A young woman stood there, Nari. She looked surprised to see Zuri. I'm sorry, I had an audition downstairs. They told me this room was empty. Zuri softened. How are you? Fine. How's Glass House? Nari glanced at Do-yoon. Fine. It clearly wasn't. Is Jae-hyuk still treating you badly? Nari looked down. He treats everybody badly. That doesn't make it normal. Nari gave a weak smile. I need the part. Do-yoon spoke. You're already cast. Yes. Have you attended meetings with his investors? Nari went still. No. Too quick, Do-yoon noticed. Zuri did too. But Nari bowed and left. 2 days later, Jae-hyuk appeared outside Zuri's apartment. She nearly shut the door. 5 minutes. You already used those. I'll repay the restaurant bill. You should. He held up an envelope. I brought everything. Zuri didn't take it. Jae-hyuk looked exhausted. I made a terrible decision. You made several. I panicked when I saw Do-yoon. Because he knew you were lying to your investors. Jae-hyuk's face tightened. You've been spending time with him. This isn't about him. It should be. Why? Because he's investigating you. Zuri went still. He told you? No. But I know what's happening inside your agency. How? People talk. What exactly are they investigating? Jae-hyuk hesitated. Zuri saw it. How do you know about the file access? I assumed. No, you didn't. Zuri, how do you know? His expression hardened. This is bigger than you think. Then tell me. I can make it disappear. She laughed. That sentence may be worse than dinner is on me. I'm serious. How? One meeting. With who? You know who. Zuri stared at him. You still want Sua? If she sits down with my investors, everything changes. Financing comes back. Certain people stop digging. Your problem disappears too. Certain people. Jae-hyuk realized he had said too much. Zuri's voice dropped. You're involved in this? No. You know what my agency is investigating. You know someone can stop it. And your solution is still to give you sewer. You don't understand how this industry works. I understand exactly how you work. She opened the door wider. Leave. Jae-hyuk walked toward the elevator. Before stepping inside, he turned. You think Do-yoon is helping you because he trusts you? Zuri said nothing. You have no idea how quickly everyone around Sewer will choose her career over yours. The elevator closed. 24 hours later, Jae-hyuk made sure everyone had the chance. Restaurant footage appeared online. Not all of it. Only the pieces that told the ugliest possible story. Zuri entering with Jae-hyuk, an expensive dinner. Jae-hyuk leaving, Do-yoon paying the $12,000 bill. Then Do-yoon taking Jae-hyuk's chair. Photos followed of Zuri entering Mirai media offices. The headlines assembled themselves. Celebrity manager under investigation after billionaire pays her $12,000 dinner bill. Was Cha Sua's manager selling access to celebrities? Had she been accepting gifts from powerful industry figures? Had Han Do-yoon received confidential information in return? Then Jae-hyuk gave one carefully worded interview. I cared deeply about Zuri, but during our relationship I became uncomfortable with the number of wealthy industry figures who approached her because of her access to celebrities. I hope the investigation establishes the truth. He never directly accused her. He didn't need to. The agency suspended Zuri that afternoon. Her email disappeared. Her security card stopped working. The official statement called the suspension temporary. It did not feel temporary when she carried a cardboard box through the lobby she had entered almost every morning for 7 years. Sua came to her apartment that night without telling anyone. Neither woman spoke at first. Finally, Sua said, I told them not to suspend you. They did anyway. I can refuse to work. No, they need me. They survived before you became famous. That is debatable. Usually Zuri would have laughed. She didn't. Sua looked at the floor. Tell me you didn't do it. Zuri froze. Sua's eyes immediately filled with regret. Zuri, you really think I could? I don't know what to think. The answer hurt more than if she had shouted. Sua wiped at her eyes. Do you know how many people have smiled at me while selling pieces of my life? My location, who I date, what I earn, what roles I'm considering. Yes. Zuri's voice cracked. Because I was the person cleaning up after them. Sua looked away. I was there when nobody cared where you ate. I was there when your first director cut your scene and you thought your career was over. I was there before your name was worth anything to anyone. I know. If 7 years isn't enough for you to know whether I'd sell you, I don't have anything else to prove. Sua reached toward her. Zuri stepped back. Go home, Zuri. Your agency told you not to contact me, didn't they? Silence. Go protect your career. Sua's face crumpled. Then she left. Zuri waited for the elevator doors to close before she cried. What do you think? Was Zuri right to send Sua away? Or can you understand Sua's doubt after years of people constantly betraying her? If all the evidence pointed toward your closest friend, would 7 years of loyalty be enough for you to ignore it? Tell me whose side you're on, because Zuri is about to discover one detail everyone investigating her completely missed. The following morning, Do-yoon found her sitting inside a convenience store near her apartment. Instant noodles sat untouched in front of her. He placed an iced coffee beside them. Zuri looked at it. What are you doing here? You stopped answering. I'm suspended. Apparently ignoring chairman is part of the benefits package. He sat opposite her. We traced the account that leaked the restaurant footage. Her sarcasm disappeared. Where? A device connected through your agency building. Jae-hyuk doesn't work there. No. Someone inside. Do-yoon slid a folder across the table. Zuri opened it, then stopped. A report inside had been dated before the restaurant dinner. Her name appeared beneath a heading. Persons with access. Zuri slowly raised her eyes. You were investigating me before we met. Do-yoon did not lie. Yes. You knew who I was at that restaurant. Yes. You were watching our table because you thought I might be leaking Sua's information. Yes. Zuri laughed once. It held no humor. So Jae-hyuk sat across from me because I could get him close to Sua. She pushed the coffee aside. And you sat across from me because you thought I might be selling her secrets. I had a responsibility. Don't. Do-yoon stopped. You paid that bill because you needed to keep me there, partly. And afterward, you were still connected to the investigation. Useful. His silence answered. Zuri stood. I was wrong about you, Do-yoon said. No. She picked up her bag. You were wrong about what I was useful for. Then she walked away. For the first time since everything began, Zuri stopped waiting for Do-yoon. Sua, or the agency to prove she was innocent. She went home, spread every document across her kitchen table, the leaks, dates, restaurant records, messages with Jae-hyuk. One thing kept bothering her, the private room. She had made a reservation for 2. Someone had later added a suite for 6. According to the restaurant records, the modification had been verified through Sua's agency concierge system. Zuri had never made that call. She contacted the restaurant. Their attorneys initially refused to release anything directly. Zuri's lawyer pushed. Hours later, they were allowed to review the footage Do-yoon had ordered preserved. Zuri watched the private room corridor. 20 minutes, nothing. 30. Then a familiar man stepped from the elevator. Zuri paused the video. Director Choi. He entered the private room almost an hour before Zuri and Jae-hyuk arrived. 12 minutes later, Jae-hyuk appeared. They already knew each other. They had already been meeting. And Director Choi was the person who had looked Zuri in the face and told her, "You've been with Sua too long for anyone serious to suspect you." Her hand shook as she called Do-yoon. He answered immediately. "I thought you weren't speaking to me. I found Choi." Silence. "Where?" "At the restaurant." 2 hours later, Murray investigators were tracing Choi's financial history. He had administrative access to Sua's files. He had the authority to modify internal access permissions. But evidence that he could frame Zuri was different from evidence that he had. Then Nari called. "Can I see you?" Her voice sounded terrified. They met in a quiet cafe. Nari kept checking the entrance. "I heard you found Director Choi." Zuri frowned. "How?" "Jae-hyuk is panicking." That answered enough. Zuri leaned forward. "You were upstairs that night, weren't you?" Nari's eyes filled. After a moment she nodded. Jae-hyuk said the investors wanted to meet some of the cast. "And Sua." He told them she might come. "Did you see Choi?" Nari twisted her fingers together. "I didn't understand why he was there. What did they say? I didn't hear everything, but something." Nari reached into her bag. "Jae-hyuk threatens to replace me constantly. Another actress told me to record meetings whenever he starts shouting. So if he later lies, I have proof." Zuri stared at her. "My phone was recording inside my bag that night." "Nari, I was scared." Zuri wanted to ask why she had waited. Then she remembered the young woman picking her pages off the floor. "You thought you'd never work again?" Nari nodded. "He told me exactly that." Zuri softened. "Show me." The recording was messy. Chairs scraping, glasses, muffled conversation. Then Jae-hyuk's voice became clear. "If Sua comes upstairs, financing is done," Director Choi answered. "Zuri won't call her if she realizes you've been using her. I'll handle Zuri. And if she starts asking questions about the leaks." A pause. Then Choi laughed. "She won't matter once the next access is traced to her account. By the time anyone investigates properly, Sua won't trust her enough to listen." Zuri stopped breathing. Jae-hyuk spoke again. "You said she wouldn't know. She doesn't need to know, she just needs to look guilty." Nari stopped the recording. Suddenly everything fit. Director Choi wanted more control over Sua's career. Zuri had spent years blocking projects she believed exploited her client, including Glass House. Jae-hyuk needed Sua attached to save his movie. Choi wanted a producer credit, money from the project, and Zuri removed from between him and Sua. So they attacked the alternatives. They leaked the secret director meeting, the endorsement negotiation, the streaming terms. Each leak weakened another option around Sua. Then Choi manipulated access records so Zuri's credentials appeared responsible. Jae-hyuk's weeks of questions had helped him learn her routines, her devices, and enough details to make the accusation believable. And if Zuri refused to bring Sua to the dinner, they already had another plan. Destroy her credibility, remove her, then convince Sua that Glass House was suddenly one of the safest projects remaining. The relationship had never been separate from the conspiracy. It was part of it. 3 days later, Jae-hyuk stood before investors and entertainment reporters inside another luxury hotel. A massive glass house poster dominated the stage. Director Choi sat near the front. The agency had not officially announced his involvement, but merely seeing a senior executive from Sua's company in the room was enough to create rumors. Jae-hyuk stepped to the microphone. "We are currently in advanced discussions with several extraordinary performers," a reporter shouted. "Does that include Cha Sua?" Jae-hyuk smiled. "I cannot announce casting before contracts are completed. The answer was calculated perfectly. Not yes, not no. Enough to move markets and investors. Then the ballroom doors opened. Everyone turned. Cha Sua walked in. Jae-hyuk's smile widened. For one glorious second, he believed she had finally come because of him. Director Choi rose. Sua, we weren't expecting, I know. She walked past him. Jae-hyuk offered her the microphone. Perfect timing. Sua took it, then turned toward the cameras. I have never agreed to appear in this film. The room exploded. Jae-hyuk's smile vanished. I rejected Glass House twice. Reporters started shouting over one another. Director Choi moved toward her. Sua, this isn't the place. She looked directly at him. You've had enough private places. The ballroom doors opened again. Zuri entered. Jae-hyuk stared at her. The panic was immediate. Sua saw her too. For a second, neither woman moved. Then Sua faced the cameras. The woman you have spent the last week accusing of selling my private information is the person who protected my career before any of you knew my name. Zuri's throat tightened. When I had 3 lines in a drama and my agency forgot to send me transportation, Zuri came for me. When I was offered contracts I couldn't understand, she read them. When directors told me I should be grateful for being treated badly because I was replaceable, she reminded me I wasn't. Sua looked at her. And when Zuri finally needed me to remember who she was, I allowed fear to make me hesitate. Her voice shook. I was wrong. Director Choi scoffed. This is emotional nonsense. Digital records show her account accessed confidential documents. Another voice answered. Yes, they do. Han Do-yoon entered with Mireille investigators and Zuri's attorney. Jae-hyuk's expression hardened. Do-yoon stepped toward the stage. The problem is that those records were altered. Evidence appeared on the screen. Choi's administrative access, reservation records, the private dining suite. Security footage showing Choi entering. Do-yoon kept the explanation short. Director Choi had the authority to alter access logs. He also used the agency concierge account to modify the restaurant reservation where Mr. Lee attempted to convince investors that Cha Sua was considering Glass House. Choi pointed toward the screen. That proves I attended a dinner. It proves you secretly met investors while publicly claiming no involvement. Jae-hyuk stepped forward. It proves nothing about leaked files. Zuri looked toward the back of the room. Nari stood there. Jae-hyuk followed Zuri's gaze. His face changed. Nari. She froze. Go back to your seat. The command came naturally, the way it always had. Nari's hands trembled. Then she looked at Zuri. Someone having the power to reject you doesn't give them the right to humiliate you. Nari stepped forward. No. One word. Jae-hyuk went still. Nari walked toward the stage. I recorded the investor meeting. His face strained. You what? My phone was recording because you threatened to fire me earlier that day. Nari, you don't understand what you're doing. For the first time, I think I do. She gave the phone to Zuri's attorney. The recording filled the ballroom. If Sua comes upstairs, financing is done. Zuri won't call her if she realizes you've been using her. Then Choi's voice. She doesn't need to know. She just needs to look guilty. Silence, then chaos. Reporters surged toward the stage. Director Choi attempted to leave. Security blocked him. Jae-hyuk moved toward Zuri. Listen to me. She stepped back. I did care about you. Zuri stared at him. That might be the worst thing you've admitted tonight. His expression twisted. Why? Because it means you knew exactly what you were destroying. Glass House was everything. To you. Zuri pointed toward Nari. To her, it was the first real role of her career. Then Sua. To her, it was another group of people trying to decide her future without her. Finally, herself. And to me, it was 6 weeks of believing someone had finally met me and wanted Zuri, not the woman who could introduce him to Cha Sua. Jae-hyuk said nothing. Zuri shook her head. You didn't value people. You valued access. Security escorted him out. Director Choi followed. The agency fired Choi before midnight. Mireille withdrew every discussion surrounding Glass House. The investors disappeared almost immediately. Police opened investigations into the stolen information and manipulated records. Nari lost her role when the movie collapsed. She cried when she told Zuri, then wiped her face. I hated the script anyway. 4 days later, she received another audition. This time, when she stumbled over a line, the director simply asked her to try again. Zuri's agency publicly cleared her and offered immediate reinstatement. She did not immediately say yes. The CEO stared at the document she placed before him. You're giving us conditions? You nearly destroyed my career because somebody put my username beside a file. He sighed. Go ahead. Independent reviews for confidential data access. Managers receive notifications when their accounts are accessed remotely. And nobody gets suspended solely because an access log says their name. Director Choi's empty seat across the room made the argument easier. The CEO nodded. The door opened without warning. Sua walked inside. You're taking the job. Zuri looked at her. I'm negotiating. You can negotiate while employed. You are why contracts exist. Sua sat beside her. The CEO wisely excused himself. For a moment, neither woman spoke. Then Sua said, I'm sorry. Zuri looked at her. I should have known. You were frightened. That isn't an excuse. No. Sua stared at her hands. Fame changed me. A little. Do you want the job back or not? Sua laughed weakly. I started thinking everyone had to constantly prove they were loyal because I was terrified eventually nobody would be. That sounds exhausting. It is. Also dramatic. I'm an actress. Zuri finally smiled. Sua leaned her head against her shoulder. So you're coming back, under conditions. Fine. You stop calling me at 3 a.m. because you hate your haircut. Sua immediately sat up. Absolutely not. Then negotiations have failed. Zuri. For the first time in weeks, they both laughed. That evening, Han Do-yoon waited outside the agency building. Zuri stopped when she saw him. No investigators, no files, no reason to be there that involved Sua. What? That's an encouraging greeting. I've had a long month. I owe you an apology. You admitted you were wrong already. That isn't the same thing. Zuri folded her arms. Do-yoon looked toward the street before meeting her eyes again. When your name first appeared in the investigation, you were a variable. Romantic. I haven't reached the romantic part. Optimistic of you to assume there is one. He almost smiled. Jae-hyuk decided what you were useful for before he knew you. I did something different, but not different enough. Zuri's expression softened. You treated me like evidence. Yes. Yes. And after you stopped believing I was guilty, I still treated you like someone who could help solve the case. Useful. Yes. He did not hide from it. I should have told you what I suspected from the beginning. You should have. I'm sorry. Zuri studied him. Do-yoon continued. And I would like to take you to dinner. She blinked. Is this another investigation? No. Business? No. Will Sua be involved? Absolutely not. Investors upstairs? I checked. She laughed, despite herself. So technically this would be our first actual date. Yes, there are rules. I assumed there would be. I choose the restaurant. Agreed. No private rooms. Agreed. No vintage wine. That feels excessive. You weren't abandoned with the bill. I was the one who paid it. Zuri pointed at him. And I still owe you. No? Yes, no. There will be a spreadsheet. I am reconsidering the invitation. 1 week later, Zuri chose a tiny restaurant on a quiet street in Mapo. No private elevators, no celebrity concierge. The owner's dog slept near the kitchen. Do-yoon looked around. This is where you bring billionaires. This is where I bring men whose financial judgment remains questionable. They ate for almost 2 hours. They barely discussed entertainment. Zuri told him about growing up in Atlanta before moving to Seoul in her 20s. Do-yoon admitted that his first attempt at making ramen had resulted in a fire alarm and 3 security guards entering his apartment. You had security respond because you burned noodles. I was 24. That somehow makes it worse. When the bill arrived, Do-yoon reached for it. Zuri put her hand over his. No. He looked at her. We're doing this. The last man who told me dinner was on him cost $12,000. Do-yoon considered the argument, then slid the bill exactly halfway between them. Half? Zuri checked the total. Half. They split it, outside their breath fogged beneath the cold Seoul streetlights. Do-yoon walked with her toward the car. Any other rules? Zuri stopped. 1. What? She stepped closer. Her hand settled lightly against his coat. Don't make me regret paying my half. Then she kissed him. For one surprised second, Do-yoon didn't move. Then one hand settled carefully at her waist. There were no cameras, no investigators, no actress waiting upstairs, no producer calculating what she could do for him. And for once, the man standing in front of Zuri wanted nothing from the famous people whose lives she managed. Only her.